Hey there, deckheads. Thanks for coming back to Crash Command Games. We're here this week, a little bit early. I released a podcast last week talking about Worlds, and it got me thinking, well, I've got a bigger event coming up over here on the Calling Portland. Barring anything extraordinarily stupid happening, I'm headed to Portland. What is over there? So the Calling Portland has a couple of things going for it. It's one of the stops on the World Tour, okay? This is what was announced over in Worlds. We're going to be trying to find out who the actual best player is. I feel like it's kind of rough to do it this way. People like me, anybody with a job or somebody who doesn't have exorbitant amounts of money just laying around will find it hard to say, hey, I'm a super high competitor on the Flesh and Blood World Tour. Why? Because I couldn't afford to hit every stop on the World Tour. I couldn't get all that. It's a little weird to me, but this is a stop coming near me and I want to make sure to hit it. So it's coming up November 22nd, 24th. There's going to be a Calling, a Battle Hardened, and then obviously the Super Armory that's typically associated with those. And while I am preparing, there's a big old pile of cards over here. I am preparing for the Calling, and I'm trying to get testing in to see if I'm going to be taking who I think I'm going to be taking. Just don't know who that is yet. Best case, I win. But other than that, not drag it on to day 2 and play through these games just to find out that I'm not going to be anywhere near top 8, right? Something about that doesn't feel great to me, but that it is what it is. Tournaments do not create winners. They create as many losers as possible, right? So with that, I was looking to shift some of the focus of my preparation for just a few days to what if I lose in the Calling? Well, there's plenty of other fantastic events going to be going throughout the day. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of those now. First of all, we got featured artist Marco Gonzalez. I'm going to put him on screen here. I can't 100% say sure because I'm not he's probably one of my favorite impressionist artists that I'm seeing. A lot of his artwork has been seen from Aria and up. Even in Monarch, I believe Spew Shadow is in. Tons of fantastic pieces. I'm going to flash them across the screen here while we talk about him. Make sure to go see him, pay him some appreciation, pay him to get a little more value out of your cards and support the artists that help make this game so appealing to the masses. One of the most important things to me about a card game was the art. And as I've discussed with many of my friends who I got into the game, one of the reasons I was so drawn to this was I saw the art for Dread Screamer and just the absolute visceral art that we got to see here. So obviously Marco Gonzalez is going to be there. Can't wait to see it. I hope to get my Flicker Wisp signed, a few other things, and I'm gonna create an artist binder to start causing appreciation. Other than that, you have Commoner double prizes. Commoners is going to be a huge theme and the focus of this video. This is just kind of hey, the Calling's coming. Here's what you can expect. I'm sure you can read all this everywhere else, but I am going to be going over 3 decks in Commoner. So day 1, it's filled with drafts, Rosetta Sealeds, Living Legend, Common. It's just tons of stuff. And then the Super Armory. Then we follow the second day where we're going to see the Calling start. And then you have Commoner Gold Cold Foils, Rosetta Sealed deck, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then the Lightning Press Classic double constructed prizes, right? That's for the crazy looking Lightning Press that's going to be given away at the 50th Calling, okay? And then day 2, you have Calling Day 2, Battle Hardened Commoner, which is going to be something I might excited. I'm obviously preparing to possibly play in. I've always wanted to be in a Welcome to Wraith Alpha draft. I need to get on that. So that's going to be on the last day. Living Legend double prizes, and then the last Lightning Press Arcane Rising sealed double prize. I want to be a part of that too. There's only so much time in a day. There's only so many tickets we're going to get. But that is going to be the full gamut of things available to us here. I'm not going to be covering all of that stuff for obvious reasons. It's too much to try to prepare for. But my 2 focuses are the Calling, okay, and then Commoner, the Commoner Battle Hardened. And we're going to look at 3 decks, okay? Number 1 is the deck that I think is probably most accessible to most people. Number 2, a deck I think a lot of people are very excited about and has some very interesting aggro implications, as well as being very good into Icelander. And number 3. Those are the 3 decks I'm looking at taking to the Battle Hardened Commoner. There are 3 of the decks that I think have some of the most upside and potential to take over the format. Obviously, you'll hear people talk about Chain and Icelander, maybe even Chain, Icelander, and then probably Dasher is probably up there pretty high as well. So let's get right into them in the order from what I think is the least viable to the most viable. Now, I want to play Dromai. I didn't get to play her a whole lot, and this isn't really the same thing as playing a Dromai in Classic Constructed, but the reason I wanted to play Dromai are obviously I have my beautiful little cold foil here that I won. I think this was a Road to Nationals prize. I can't quite remember exactly where I got that, but I think that's where it's from. Mostly because in one of my pro quests, I got myself a gold foil Silken Form. So that's what inspired me to start playtesting this deck at first, but as I continued to refine the deck and kind of find out some things that I like about this, I just got so distracted right there. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Obviously, Dromai, you're going to be wanting to use the Storm of Sandakai as your weapon because we are relying heavily on the Ash Wings. Speaking of the Ash Wing, the Silken Form is just going to get you there. You need a few Ash. And let's talk about some of the equipment. Hope Merchant's Hood. This deck, as far as I have seen, has run into a few problems. Just having the right hand. I have, I think, 6 blues. Maybe, hold on, let me... like 2 blues in this. We're gonna find out what those are as we take the deck apart. Which I should have done before this. But we're gonna keep going over the equipment, okay? We'll go over the deck list as we go. Okay, number 2. So this is to fix your hand because of too resource rich of a hand. Deep Blue offers the exact opposite. It's when I have too few resources to work with. Deep Blue can fix that by pitching one of the reds to the bottom. Not really pitching for Ash purposes, but I can still get all the resources I need from there. Silken Form is a way to generate Ash on turn 1 or any other time, quell a few times, prevent a few damage, as well as getting an Ash Wing. And then Snapdragon Scalers will come in right at the end there. Obviously, a Chain Extender can pretty much be used with everything except for the Ember Maws in this deck. Dust Ups, all that kind of stuff. Anything that requires the Go Again, just go ahead and give it with these guys right here. From there, I'm going to break down this deck, and we're going to look at it together. We've gotten this deck broken down now. So you're just going to need your Storm of Sandakai, some Ash, make sure to remember that stuff. And we're going to first look at the main board, right? First up are these Billowing Mirages, okay? You can turn your Ash into Ash Wings. It generates Ash when you play the card because you're pitching to create the cost. The trigger goes on, and then when this begins to attack and it's on as an attack, it can then transform an Ash Wing. Has Go Again, it's red, obvious card is obvious. We have Blaze Headlongs. Same story. They're 0 for 4. They can be a Chain Extender. Starter if you have the Razors or the Snapdragon Scalers over here. In a desperate situation, but most of the time you should be able to just go into 0 for 4 with this. Breaking Point, if you get enough Ash Wings, this is really easy to do, and it's one of the only C's and C's we're going to have access to in this game at the moment. Come to Fights, blocks 3, pitches for 1, pumps one of these amazing attacks that could be coming out, or any other attack you might be able to get out. Is +3, Go Again, red, Chain Starter, all that kind of stuff. Dunebreaker Senpai. It's Spears of Surreality with Phantasm with creates Ash on break. It has to be included. Again, Chain Starter. Go Again, red, 1 cost, generates Ash, all of the good stuff. Dust Up, one of those Marco Gonzalez cards right here. God, that looks... I wish I could get a better shot of that because of my lighting. It's not super possible, but it does look really good. Looks really good. Okay, Dust Up, again, can be Razored, can be Snapdragoned. In the most dire of circumstances, and then again creates an Ash and transforms into Ash Wings. Ember Maw Senpai, good Chain Enders, creates Ash tokens, 8 attack, 3 block, red pitch. Dream. You have Lava Bursts here, 2 of them. What can I say? 0 for 5, blocks 3, it's red, can be hit by a bunch of your cards that you're pumping with. Nimblism hits everything except for Ember Maw, fantastic. Chain Starter, all that kind of stuff. Rake the Embers. Don't have to explain that one for Dromai. You do want to have a good source of Ash before playing this, obviously, because you can just kind of mess yourself up trying to play out those rakes. Rabbles, obvious. These are kind of the spice. They create an Ash when you pitch for them. They give target you don't care about the sword or dagger part, but any of the attacks +3. You can hit a dust up with this. You can hit you can hit a dust up, a razor reflex to give that go again. The breaking points can be hit with it. Blaze headlong can be given go again a couple times with that thing. It's fantastic. Sand cover, it's just a defense reaction basically, but it can also on your turn, you can give any ash you have ward and then have your turn starter with red right there if you have a bunch of ash wings out. Sink blow, self-explanatory. Skittering sands, again, chain starter, pumps an attack, gets you an ash wing. Spears of Surreality, have to have it. It's a 1-for-5 go again, chain starter, fantastic. And then I only have Sweeping Blow reds in here because they create an ash. And again, they're chain starters. Most of this is just pretty self-explanatory for how Jeremiah's going to play. I then only have 2 yellow cards, 2 Rake the Ember yellows. I feel like these are very useful, but they're not a chain starter and can be a little awkward sometimes. I have not found a reason not to run them yet. And then I follow this up with just blue dust ups and blue ember moss centipies, right? Pretty rock solid deck. We'll just do like a quick sample line here. All of the 1-for-5s and all the 0-for-4s, you always threaten go again. And once they see the first razor reflex, it's just scary, man. I feel like she's got a lot of headroom and she can have a few crazy turns. One of those crazy turns, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like going second here would be fantastic, right? So first turn, you're like, no blocks, blah, blah, blah. Here, quell, get 2 ash, right? And then on your turn, you just see what you get because you don't need to pop this. Or then you pop one of the, sorry, if you quell, you pop the Silken Form and flip one of these into an ash wing. And then you start your turn with an ash. 2, 3, and 4. No red starter, kind of. But what you could do is Hope Merchants right here. And this might be hopefully showing you how useful Hope Merchant's Hood can be in these situations. Tuck this, draw the same, see, draw 4, and we're already after the races. So we just go ahead and go come to fight, pitching a sand cover. And then Billowing Mirage. So we've generated 2 more ash this turn. We're going to create a second ash wing. This is going to come in for 6, 7, 8. Threatening 8, and then we get 2 ash wings at the end of it. That's what Hope Merchant's Hood can fix for you. Those awkward hands are just... I have never not liked Hope Merchant's Hood for fixing. And then if you can just stay on the front, this deck can carry you pretty far. Now, as for sideboard, what we're looking at, let me go ahead and clean this up. For sideboard, pretty simple, right? We're just running Null Rune Hood, and then we got to kind of run like a take care of ourselves package with a couple Arcane Polarities, a single Oasis for Spite, 2 Oasis for Spites, and 2 Fate for Scenes. If you just predict that they're going to go super tall, Azalea or something like that, these can come in handy. Arcane package, etc., etc. That's going to be Dramai, okay? I got to try to keep this short because I got to remember this isn't like a full podcast episode. It's just a video. And I'm going to heavily cut it probably. Next up in power order, I would say it's Azalea. Okay. Again, one of the only reasons I'm thinking about running this is I don't remember if this was a skirmish victory or what, but I opened a black envelope with Azalea in it. I don't quite remember. Yeah, I don't quite remember where that's from. But, you want your assortment of tokens, be polite to your opponents, and have a representable board state. And let me go ahead and tear this apart and see where we're at. Now that we have that deck apart, we know that we're working with Azalea. We'll move her to the side here and look at the equipment. I believe Death Dealer is probably going to be the best weapon you can choose. I briefly thought about Redliner because of a few lines in this deck that try to put stuff on top of your deck. And sometimes drawing that card with Death Dealer wasn't so optimal. Just think better about what you put up there, right? Just play better. Drawing the card will almost always net you more resources and be more available. Crow's Nest, pretty useful. Most of the deck uses aim counters and gets stronger because of that. Wayfinder's Crest is a 1 block that will let you look at the top of your deck and see if you can just straight up Azalea right off the top, which is always useful. Vest of the First Fist is a good chain extender. If you hit with one of your little setup cards, you can always pop for the 2 resources, and that'll pay for the Death Dealer and anything else if you have a short hand. Bullseye Bracers obviously has Arcane Barrier. Action Destroy this, put an arrow into your arsenal. Always very useful if you have a little bit of a wider turn possible. And and then Snapdragon Scalers to try to really push in that damage. If they decide to not block the first attack and you want to just say, hey, you want to really keep your whole hand? Let's find out. Again, this is commoner. It's not super complicated, but I do want to go over things briefly. I'm going to try to keep this video a little short. Sorry if it goes longer than I say. First up is Come to Fights. They're easy to pay for. I love this card in commoner. It's a 3-block. It's a huge pump. It has Go Again. It's just a solid card. It doesn't have to be arrows either. It can hit some of your other cards, which may or may not be useful, but always hits arrows as well. Fatigue Shot could be a two-edged, not a two-edged sword. How would you even say that? It's more powerful than it looks. It reduces the base power of the first attack action card out of their hand. So unless they're trying to drop little baby attacks, which most of the time in commoner, people like to give those huge, massive attacks, this can cut a lot of the damage they're dealing down. Hamstring Shot, not a lot of commoner decks are super efficient. This just cuts them out a little bit. Infecting Shot, it's more damage than meets the eye. It's like Transformers in that guy. Murkmire Grapnel is mostly in here for the Illusionist or anybody with Spectral Shields or Ward or anything like that. Other than that, it's just a 0 for 4, 3-block. Very useful card, but with 5 and a few pumps and maybe a Dominate, you can clear Enigma's board. Very, very handy. You've got Nimblism here, just like the last deck. Nimblism is just an extraordinarily strong card and will a lot of the time carry some of that win for you. Overflex is a card from Tales of Aria. It is one of the only ways you can reload with the mechanic. Well, no, I think it is the only keyword common reload in the game right now. But it's also +4. It doesn't block for 3, which isn't my favorite, but +4 reload mechanic allows you to Azalea if you know what's on top. Don't ever blind Azalea with this deck because of the next card. And then, yeah, it's just really good value. Point the Tip. Now, this card is fantastic because a lot of the arrows you see back here, the infecting shots, the Murkmire Grapnels, all that stuff, obviously you need to be in the arsenal, so they're very likely going to be targetable by Point the Tip. It's +3, and you put an aim counter on it. That's going to be more and more relevant as we go on through the deck. Has Go Again, but because of this card, you can never blind Azalea. This goes into your arsenal. You can't get rid of it until you blind Azalea again. It's awful. Don't do it. Don't blind Azalea. Make good plays. Be a better player. You got Ravenous Rabble here. Obviously, you can see the top of your deck. It's a chain starter. This is one of those cards where you can attack with this and then kind of see what's on the top and manipulate your whole deck after that, because we don't have Skullbone Crosswrap in this format. Read the Glide Path. It's a pump with Opt. What more do you want? I'm not the biggest fan of Searing Shot, but I couldn't find anything else to really take this card's place. Like maybe a Sikkim Shot Red might take this card's place if you want to take a look at that as an option. But if you really hyper pump this in commoner and it gets Dominate, you know, it's just a little bit more. It's 0 for 5. Sedation Shots. I got 2 of these things. It's one of those aim counter cards. It goes up to 6 with the aim counter. Crow's Nest can help you get that. Point the Tip can help you get that. Sedation Shot I like a lot more because I do feel like there's going to be more Azaleas, Icelanders, things that rely on the arsenal, or maybe some of those more aggro decks like Fi who really need that 5-card hand, and this can slow them down. Seek Horizon. It's a 0 for 4 that gets Go Again, and you get to put an arrow on top of your deck, and then if they choose to take it, you know, you've now stacked your deck, gotten ready for the Azalea, and then you can just pop Vest of the First Fist to pay for everything from that point on, and you might even have a wider turn than you think if you have Snapdragons. Scout the Periphery. It's another way to look at the top of the deck and see if it's a good idea to use Azalea's ability. Also just pumps attacks from Arsenal, so it's only going to hit your arrows. And then Withering Shot Red. Again, it's another 5-attack aim counter based arrow. Pretty decent. I did only include, I think, red and maybe yellow of the Withering Shot because I just think Inertia is going to be a little bit more relevant in Commoner. And then we get to the yellows. It's just yellow Infecting Shot, yellow Sedation Shots for more of that Inertia, and yellow Spire Sniping, right? Spire Sniping helps you set up with Death Dealer and gets you going. Blue Infecting Shot, blue Spire Sniping. That's the whole deck. Super easy to get a hold of. Let's just go ahead and shuffle it up and come back in a second and see what a sample hand looks like. I'm going to tell you right now, do not judge me on these sleeves. I know a lot of you aren't in my local meta, anybody who sees this, but I have a pretty wide tradition of every time we do any kind of dumb sealed or some stupid event, I buy the absolute worst sleeves I can And man, that is so Joker. I realize that this artist is good. I realize that it's a great piece of art. It's just, can you imagine? Never mind. So let's go ahead and take a look, sample hand at this. Let's point the tip, read the glide path, sedation shot in a blue. Even going first, this is pretty good because we just simply activate the death dealer. Draw the card. We're on an overflex, point the tip. Jesus, this is pretty savage. I would read the glide path. Here's my opt, Seek Horizons. That's not going to be super useful. But we could literally just, we have 2 resources floating still. Overflex, point the tip. And now this is firing in with that last resource. 4, 5. It got an aim counter. So 6, 9, 13, 16. And they get an inertia counter on their first turn. So they're not going to have a 5 card hand on the second turn. Pretty gross. Let's go ahead and go to the second turn and see what we can do with that Seek Horizons. 2, 3, 4. Whatever they do, we probably block to maintain the pressure. And we see that there's a blue infecting shot on the top. Not super exciting. But let's see what we can do here. So with this, we probably go ahead and Seek Horizons. Probably putting the Nimblism on top. Okay, we Seek Horizons. Probably putting the Nimblism on top. Okay. That's 4 go again. Now, we don't really need to pop Vest on this turn. We don't really need to do anything else crazy on this turn. So this is just 4. If they choose to take it, cool. If not, they probably block 2 or 3. We're going to load the Death Dealer. 1 resource floating. Draw the Nimblism. Play the Nimblism and come in with a Searing Shot, threatening 8 total damage. 4, 7, and then the one on hit if they lose life. That's been pretty bonkers so far. We've had... Ooh, cheating. We've had quite the decent run here. Even this is really good. So what we do here, right, is we just scout the periphery first, probably, just to see what we have. We have a read the glide path. So I would definitely load that Murkmire Grapnel in there with the Death Dealer. Draw the card, read the glide path. Play read the glide path. Here's our opt. That's perfect. A yellow infecting shot's totally fine for this. We're going to use Azalea to tuck down that Murkmire Grapnel. Put that in there with Dominate. We now have 2 resources left over. Come to fight. And that's an infecting shot for 4, 7, 10, 13 Dominate on hit Blood Rot, right? Azalea is always Azalea. I don't have to explain that to anybody. But she has some pretty hardcore lines that can be very oppressive. And they ain't super fun to play against. So she's definitely someone you can consider taking to something like a common or battle hardened. Obviously, if they have a lot of defense reactions or are super prepared, have a lot of armor, which not a lot of people do in commoner, you can definitely take my girl Azalea right there and probably do some serious work. Okay. Probably do some serious work. So that's deck number 2 I was considering. There's only 1 piece of sideboard I have for that deck right now. Obviously, that's for the Illusionists, okay? That's the only piece of kit I have for the sideboard right now. I'm not super concerned about it. But always make sure to carry your tokens on you. Make sure that you always have the ability to represent the board state accurately because of effects you have. Don't be that guy, okay? Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you like any of the content that I'm talking about here. Sorry for the interruption, but just please... I love the engagement. It is such... I saw a little bit of growth. Obviously, if you're looking at my channel, it's not very big yet. But I saw some growth, and it made me so excited to make more content like this. And last but not least, as you saw earlier, Dash, everybody's favorite girl. My partner over here threw away all of our Arcane Rising tokens. She only left 1 available, but that's okay. Because I actually like the History Pack Mechanologist cards quite a bit. They look really clean. And if you're wondering what cringe-ass sleeve these are in, try to fucking explain that to anybody you're playing with. It ain't gonna happen. I'm glad that I've been explained to in this game. God, these sleeves are like $30 or something like that. I've been explained to that she is not 10,000. Okay? So no what in the red zone rogue is that shit. None of that. That's a phrase from one of my friends over here. What in the red zone rogue? Nope, none of that shit. She's like 14 or something like that. Okay? Don't be that guy. So, dash. You may start the game with a mechanologist item with cost 2 or less in the arena. That will be the hyperdriver. Okay. What is our weapon? The plasma barrel shot. And then for the rest of our equipment, let's just go ahead and get into the other scene. That is going to be the Tekla base head. I love this card, the Vest of the First Fist. Goliath Gauntlet. I guess an Achilles Accelerator. I would probably say if you want to, you could probably replace that with like an Iron Rot Legs or something like that. There's not a lot of use for the Accelerator in this specific deck unless you wanted to not boost again, question marks. But it also has Arcane Barrier. You just have a well-rounded suite here. So let me go ahead and deconstruct this deck and we'll get to work. Okay, now that I've deconstructed the deck, I'm just going to go ahead and clean up the little area over here. We'll get ready to show a little demo of what the deck can do. Obviously, I'm not playing against anybody. It's fucking, what is it? It's 4 a.m. It's all 5 a.m. I got to get out of here soon. But the point is, this is going to be the most boring of the decks. It's super easy to get a hold of all these cards, and it's just consistency. That is all this deck is about. So, let's go over these cards real quick. Because she is going to be putting out a hyperdriver, okay? That is obviously consideration number 1 for the cards. So we have Big Berthas, reds. On top of that, it's just a boost card with 6 attack, cost 3. Very easy to do with all the blue curve in this deck, and it blocks 3. Just an overall solid card. Combustible Courier, cost 2, 4 attack. If it hits your next attack, it's plus 3, 3 block. Just good value here, and almost demands more block since the opponent will start to notice that a lot of our cards are huge. So not blocking this results in a 9 attack coming in later. Crankshafts, again, they feed that hyperdriver. 2 for 5 isn't bad, but it's mostly there to feed the hyperdriver. Jumpstart, since we start and play with a hyperdriver, these are just extra zipper hits. And then Payload. If you've boosted, this gets Dominate, a good game finisher, and also just punches through extra damage if possible. Rev Up. Also, again, you're going to notice 2 attack, or 6 attack, 2 cost, 3 block, gets Dominate. Very good. Rev Up. If you have a hyperdriver, it costs 2, and it becomes 2 for 6 with boost, which is just like Throttle. Another 2 for 6 with boost. Then we do have cards like 0 to 60 and the zipper hits themselves. You're going to notice a pattern here. Crankshafts, jump starts, throttles, 0 to 60, zipper hit. Okay? This is not a mystery how Mechanologist plays, but in Commoner, it's even more pattern based. Big Berthas, crankshafts, jump starts, throttles, 2 0 to 60s, and 1 single zipper hit. Okay? So very even, consistent base. All of these cards are fairly above rate. I just cut the blue zipper hit over like the throttle and the Big Berthas here for the 4 attack. The throttles as well, right? If it costed something but didn't attack for 4, I cut one of them just to make room for that hyperdriver. Okay. As you saw, we have rainbow crankshafts, and then we have the red and blue Big Berthas just to make sure that we could feed that hyperdriver and keep it in play for as long as possible. And that is the secret sauce to this deck. So we'll look at Dash, the hyperdriver, the plasma, the shotgun. Okay, we got our helmet, Vest of the First Fist, Goliath Gauntlet, Achilles Accelerator. Again, I think you probably could go like Iron Rot boots or something. Just something that blocks in general. Because realistically, you're not going to use the ability too often. But again, it is Arcane Barrier. It rounds out your defense package a little bit because, well, I think if I remember right, I don't even have a sideboard for this deck. Because this is the plan, man. You're doing only this. So let's go ahead and get one more shuffle. So, say you're going first. All right, this is a first turn. This is going to be pretty simple. We're going to first load the barrel. We're going to load the barrel, which looks like this jeweler's loop right here. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and probably just crankshaft, no boost. And it's a pretty unexciting turn. We're going to let the opponent do whatever the hell they want on their first turn, probably. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to block with this. And then we're going to see if we can just tear into them, right? So we have the hyperdriver. We have a throttle in arsenal. Let's just see what we're capable of doing. So we're going to first crankshaft, boost. Okay. That's going to go to 2 resources floating because of the hyperdriver. And we're coming in for 5. Go again. Okay. Throttle. Pitching. Not pitching because we had those 2 resources floating. Okay. We're going to boost. A combustible courier. That's another 6, so we're at 11 threatened this turn. We're going to go ahead and boost the 0 to 60. Okay, for another 3 damage. And then fire the gun in for 4. Not super crazy, but we arsenal and see what we can do again. I mean, that's still, what, 5, 11, 14, 17 damage threatened? That's a lot, okay? Their turn, they may have some kind of garbage, but that's fine because we have 2 jump starts and a huge starter. So, we are probably going to see if we can finish them this turn. So we're going to crack the Goliath Gauntlet to tell them, you know, you're on notice, okay? And we are just going to start with loading the pistol. Or not loading the pistol, loading the shotgun. 1 resource floating. Zipper hit. Big Bertha's going to keep the hyperdriver neutral. And we're now at 1 resource floating. Okay. 4 go again, 1 resource floating. From there, we're going to jump start with that 1 resource. We're going to jump start with that with another 2 resources floating. Crankshaft is going to put another counter on the hyperdriver. And because we have 2 resources floating here, we just come in like this. Okay. So that was 4, 7, 5, 4. All right. Pretty decent. 11, 16, 20 damage threatened on that turn. And we still have our Achilles Accelerator and Vest of the First Fist. And if you're really looking to try to take down some events, I do think Dash is probably one of the best ways to do it. She has some of the best defensive options, some of the most versatile combos of equipment, right? It's just the Goliath Gauntlet, the Vest of the First Fist. You just have to be on notice the whole time against her, or you will just get blown out of the water. Anyway, those are the 3 decks I'm talking about bringing to the Battle Hardened over in Portland. These are the decks that I think are going to do the best. Time will tell if I'm right or wrong. We're going to have a lot of players. From what I hear, there's a bit of a commoner scene over in Portland. Not much of one where I'm from. So I'm just kind of going off of, oh shit. There's a commoner event. What decks can I probably throw together? And I just thought Dash would be the most consistent. Azalea would be the dark horse. And I thought Dramai could probably put some heavy pressure on the Icelander game if there's a lot of that there. All right, and thanks again for checking out Crash Command Games. Thanks for listening to me, and what do you think? Am I dumb as fuck? Or do you think these 3... Yeah, I picked 3 girls. Are these 3 girls going to take the Battle Hardened? Let me know in the comments below. What are you playing? Are you going to Portland? See you there. This one is zeroed.